Appreciate you all being on the call. What a great week. Fun to see some of these numbers pouring in. And I know, obviously, as we get ready to do leaderboards, guys, with our sales process now, I know a lot of you still have appointments today. And numbers will still be coming in. So this is the final day turn in for the month of May. And so those of you who are pushing hard for your final numbers, still got till midnight Eastern to get that business uploaded to count for the month. So still plenty of time to get some additional activity. And I know several of you do have more appointments. So obviously leaderboards are only going to reflect what's on the board right now. But hey, we've had a solid week. Let's go through what we've got here. We had Stephanie Stubbs come in with 2 applications, $1,516, direct to John Paul Vetter. We had Mr. Jerry Points, had 2 applications, $1,578, also direct to John Paul Vetter. And Jerry doing this on a part-time basis. Great job, Jerry, getting a couple applications in there. Spencer Cushian had 2 applications, $1,683, direct to myself. We had Miss Stella Dinwiddie, 3 applications, $3,608, direct to myself. Mr. Jeremiah Nolan, 8 applications, great app count, $3,614, direct to myself. You may notice Jeremiah's not on the call today. A little side note, he mentioned this, I believe it was last week, that they are the proud parents of a new baby boy, and they're taking delivery of that new baby boy this morning. So they are doing that today. Brother to Hayes, who is the other boy that they adopted, so they will be getting, and I'm not going to announce the name because I think I will get in trouble if I think I accidentally learned it, so I will keep mum until he has a chance to announce that, and I'm sure you'll be seeing a post on that here later today, so we're excited for them, for the Nolan family. Back to leaderboards. Number 3, Terry Myers, 4 applications, $6,650, direct to Stella Dinwiddie. Great job, Terry. Donna Bates, number 2 spot for the week, 3 applications, $7,742, direct to Spencer. Great job, Donna. Solid week. That's awesome. And number 1, as usual, Mr. John Paul Vetter himself, 9 applications, $16,458. John Paul, once you figure this thing out, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So I'm looking forward to the day when you actually get on track here. This is going to be exciting for you. So great job. Awesome week, everybody. And again, I know that is just a partial numbers for the week because we have several who still have appointments who will be putting up additional business. So that is just what, as of this morning, when I pulled the leaderboards, I have more applications to come. So great job. Guys, quick announcements. But I'm sure probably everybody is aware of this, but unfortunately, just due to the current environment, our conference has once again been shot down, and so we conference in Denver that was supposed to be in September will not be happening in Denver. We're looking at some alternatives. I mean, we got to do some things to make sure that we get this experience in the hands of as many people as possible. So. Leadership team is working on some alternatives. Keep a sharp eye out. We'll figure something out. We're going to make sure that we get some of this high value training in your hands, and that's what conference is all about. 2 days of training and really in-depth dive into the system, and we know it's vitally important to everybody's success. So there are ways to do it. We will get some alternatives in place. So stay tuned, keep watching, keep watching for those announcements and keep plugged in. All right, guys, my topic for the morning, and if you saw the announcement, why ask why? Before I get started, I want to make sure, guys, this is a call out I want you multitasking on. I'm going to be delivering some information today that's going to have high impact on your business, on your ability to be successful. So focus, get out a notepad and paper. For those of you who have been reading, thank you, Stellas. You got it right up there in front of the screen. That's perfect. If you've been reading Miranda Martin's book, friend and one of our partners in the business. Recently wrote a book on training, and I thought the studies on retention of information was very fascinating. How much writing down information as you listen to it really impacts how you retain that information, and going back and reviewing that. So, and certainly I'll have to raise my hand, being as guilty as anybody on multitasking and maybe not being as dialed in. This is a call, guys. The information I'm going to give you today is going to have great impact. I don't care if you're brand new in the business or if you've been here a while. Sometimes it's good to refocus. In fact, this is kind of a springboard off the last call I did. You know, the last call with the theme being one thing or one word, focusing on that one element of business or of your life that if you really dig in and hard laser focus on that, you'll have infinite success. And so this is going to be one of those moments that, you know, the information I'm sharing with you today is a one thing, you know, is a singular focus in this business. And I guarantee you, if you apply this, it will revolutionize your success. So, and you know, I wrote this note down. There's one thing that makes or breaks this business. And it's the reason why on the sales side, if you hear, I want to think about it a lot, or if you hear, can you send me that information in an email? We want to look it over. Or if you hear, let's reschedule later so we can do this application. Let's not do it today, but we're going to do it later. Guys, I can guarantee you most of the time it comes back to what we're going to talk about today, okay? But on the business side, on your side, on you, the agent side, the personal side, it's also the reason why we have too many people leave this business too soon, you know, before they reach that level of success. And it all starts with why. So we're going to talk about your why and their why. And, you know, I'm going to start out first by saying you can't help somebody else until you first help yourself. So everyone right now, take that pen and paper, and I want you to write down on that paper, why are you in this business? Why are you here? I don't care what that is, you know, whatever that vision was when you saw this, you first looked at it, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Write that down right now, okay? Now, as you write that down, and I give you a couple seconds here, you know, it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out paragraph, just one or two words, or maybe a short sentence. But as you look at your paper and you look at what you wrote down, so I guarantee you what you wrote down is just going to be a surface answer. I mean, it's going to be a short summary. Now, I don't have the, obviously I didn't give you the time to really develop that out, but I want you to think about this, because whenever we talk about writing down your why or thinking about why you're in the business, we have a tendency just in general to keep it very surface level. So I want to dig into this with you this morning on the first half of this call is, why are you really in this business? And for some of you, you wrote down it's more money. I got to make more money than what I've ever made. Or maybe it's just the success piece. You know, I feel like I'm always coming up short in life. Maybe for some of you, it's travel. Yeah, I want to be able to travel and be, you know, have fun with my family, my significant other, whatever, or just travel and see the world. For some of you, you wrote down having more impact, you know, being able to help other people through charities and organizations. But guys, I want you to stop right now and think about, what does that actually look like? Because again, when we write those down, those are very surface answers. So, you know, so what I mean, what does that feel like? For some of you, when you go to the mailbox, you walk out to the mailbox, it's a sick feeling in your stomach, because you know you're going to drop that box down and pull out that envelope, and you're going to see that creditor's name, or maybe a stack of creditors' names. And you, every time you look at your phone, that number that you don't recognize gives you a sick feeling, because it's likely somebody calling asking where's their money. And, you know, for some of you, when you wrote down just, you know, more success, you gone through life and you've always come up just short. What does that feel like? For some of you, I mean, you wrote down you want to travel the world. And it's not just the fact that, you know, jumping on an airplane and going somewhere and seeing the sights. It's more about being there with friends, with family. You know, if you have kids at home, watching those kids, you know, play in the pool, you know, at a resort. You're walking down to an all-inclusive resort, walking into the restaurant without a billfold, without a purse or a wallet, and just sitting down and ordering whatever you want, steak and lobster, all you can eat, because it doesn't matter. You know, for some of you, it's about, again, you know, the bigger vision of helping somebody else, getting to a point where you're so successful you don't have to worry about yourself. Now you start focusing on other people. And what does that look like? You know, what are the faces of those people? Maybe you're doing an international mission and you're working with little underprivileged kids, or you're going into some neighborhoods where people just, you know, don't have the resources to help themselves out, and you're there as a resource for them. Guys, for us to be in this business and be successful and be able to go through that daily grind, you have to understand, you have to tap into why you're here. And it's not just that what we wrote down on our paper, that one word, that one sentence. It's got to be developed. We have to see ourselves in that future position where we've achieved and attained why we're in this business, because that's what's going to keep you going every day. And your why leads to your client's why. So I'm going to make a little transition here, because as we're talking with clients, you know, again, 90% of your I want to think about it, or any variant of that, come back to this. So when we're talking with a client, we have to understand why this is important to them. And we'll walk you through that process. And guys, if you apply this, if you get nothing else right about the sales process, if you just figure out how to do a good, solid why, I guarantee you your numbers will go up. You will have more success. You will help out more families. Now, to do this, part of this process, it's not about just digging in with a client. You have to be able to reciprocate. You have to explain why you're in the business. You have to, you know, why did you choose insurance of all things? You know, insurance and financial services. And so part of that process, when we get ready to work with clients and help them discover their why, we have to be able to describe to them why this business is so impactful, what we see, and how it impacts families and the clients that we work with. And so in this transition, so, you know, just kind of, you know, high level, and when we go through the sales process, we start out obviously with the bonding and rapport, making that connection. Then we go through our role and purpose. Why am I here? You know, who am I? Why should you listen to me? I'm a licensed state broker. I work with all these companies. I'm going to go to work for you. I mean, that's all important setup. But then we have to transition into that why process. And we're going to make that transition by first telling our story, our why. Why is this business important? And guys, if you've ever had experience with insurance, either directly or indirectly, where you personally have benefited or maybe suffered because there wasn't enough coverage in place, or maybe you had a family member or a friend who benefited or who suffered because they didn't have enough coverage in place, we need to develop that story. And again, it cannot, here's the big challenge for all of us, is we want to be able to just, you know, spit out facts. You know, I had this family member, you know, I had a cousin who was in a car wreck, he died, and you know, it was really tough. Well, guys, that doesn't have any impact whatsoever. I mean, that you just basically gave them a newspaper headline. What you want to do is you want to develop that out. You know, you have to be able to share that story in a way where people can relate to that, where they can put themselves in that situation, where that person, you know, they were driving to work, you know, and it was, you know, it was like any other morning. They'd spent time with the family that morning, doing breakfast and bustling around the house, getting kids ready, and walked out the door with a kiss to the wife, and in the car headed to work, and every morning loved to listen to talk radio, and we don't know, but I'm sure he was probably listening to talk radio. And the thing about it is he had the green light. He was in the right, but here's what happens in life. We're around other people that make mistakes. And that other guy in that big truck made a mistake. He wasn't paying attention. I don't know if he was on the phone or what, but he T-boned that car. And now my cousin, age 35, with a wife and kids, is no longer here. And the problem with that is, like a lot of people, he kind of thought he had it all figured out. And, and sometimes when we think we have it all figured out, we, number one, we're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. It's going to happen to the other guy. It's not going to happen to us until it does. But when it does, it's too late to go back and redo anything. And, the family struggled. His wife, and again, you want to use names. His wife, Karen, had to sell the house, but the problem is she had to sell fast because that mortgage keeps coming. And most of the income was coming from him. And so she had to sell fast. And that means she had to slash the price quickly. And really, they didn't walk away with any equity. They barely got out of the house and had to go rent a house, a smaller house in a different neighborhood. And that was tough because not only are they dealing with the loss, but now they had to make some very quick financial decisions. And anybody who's in financial planning would tell you, don't make quick financial decisions after the loss of a loved one. And now those kids are having to change school districts in the midst of grieving for the loss of their father. So guys, as I'm walking through this, you understand the difference between, my cousin was in a car wreck and died, and that was really bad, versus here's what happened. Here's the setting. Here's the people, the characters involved. Here's how that played out. Here's how they were impacted negatively. Or again, it could be a situation where, this exact same scenario happened, but hey, they had the coverage in place. And it made a huge impact on their ability to stay in that home, pay off the home, and now they miss him terribly, but they have the resources. Okay, so guys, you have to develop out that story and tell that story. People are going to relate to that. They're going to start plugging themselves in mentally into that experience. Now, this is important because what's going to happen at the end of this process, you're going to transition into, Mr. and Mrs. Client. That's why this business is so important to me. But enough about me. I want to hear from you. Why is this important to you? Why did you send it or fill in the form and send it back, or why did you call in? Okay. Now, here's what's going to happen. Same thing that happens in most cases. You're probably going to get a surface answer. Well, we just want to make sure that everything's taken care of if something happens. Now, on rare occasions, if you get really good at developing out your why story, and it may happen, especially if you get really good, you're going to have some people that are going to connect so emotionally with that story. They're just going to spill out all their guts and their emotions on why they're worried, what's happened. The same story happened to them, very similar circumstances, this family member, this friend. That's why it's on top of their mind, and that's why we got to take care of this. If that happens, great. I mean, keep running with that. But in most cases, a lot of times, we want to avoid talking about those difficult subjects. Nobody wants to think about their own death. And so you're going to get those surface answers. Yeah, we just want to make sure we get something in place in case something happens. Now, guys, too many times, this is where a salesperson who's not a professional is going to take that and say, okay, great, I'm going to get some coverage, I'm going to get you the prices, we're going to get this taken care of. Now, this is the time that you have to stop and really start digging in. This is what we call peeling the onion, getting down layer by layer. So guys, write this down. So as you get that surface answer, you always want to respond, well, what do you mean if something happens? We got to start breaking that down. And again, they're going to try to keep it surface level. Well, I mean, obviously if I died, then, that wouldn't be good. Well, what do you mean that wouldn't be good? Follow that up with another response. Guys, write this question down. This is one of the most powerful questions you can ask in a home or in an appointment. So if you get somebody that's trying to keep it surface level, ask this question, especially if it's on a mortgage protection relief. So let me ask you, Karen, if John dies this month and their income stops, it's not going to come in next month. With what you have in savings right now today, how many months can you pay that mortgage before things get serious? Now, guys, we know statistically, here's what's going to happen. The answer is going to come back about 30 to 90 days. So they're going to say, well, I can make next month's payment, but after that, I don't know. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't know? So that's, again, we got to turn that response, and we got to dig in. So what happens then? How would you handle that? So what if you have to move? How does that affect the kids? You see, each of these questions start peeling those layers back. So it's what we call the who, what, when, how, why questions. And there's a technique that's called respond to the response. So I'm kind of doing a self role play here, but you can hear whenever somebody says, well, that would be tough. Well, what do you mean by tough? So I'm going to respond to that response because I want to draw that out. And one of the biggest challenges is we have a tendency to want to insert those answers for them. Oh, when you say tough, you mean that financially that would be hard. Like that's really bad. Okay, I can help you with that. We want to bounce out of that process and go straight to resolving that. Guys, they have to own it and they have to feel it. So we have to help guide them through that process. So we respond to the response. Well, that would be tough. Well, what do you mean that would be tough? How would that be tough? Well, I make most of the money, so the family would probably struggle. Well, what do you mean struggle? How would they struggle? How would that impact them? So again, every answer, what do you mean? How does that affect? Why does that affect? Who does that affect? So guys, this little piece right here in the appointment, if you do this, if you stay in, now here's the thing, I'm going to tell you right now, depending on your personality, for most people, this is going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable for you because you're turning the screws on the emotions, on the mental state. But it's going to be uncomfortable for them. And if you do this process right, it's not going to be uncommon for there to be some tears. Some emotion comes out, especially if they have experienced it with family members. But guys, we have to do that. We have to make them uncomfortable because this is a conceptual sale. This is not a tangible. I'm not going to drop a bag of cash on the table in front of them and say, hey, this is what you get. This is all in the future. This is something that's going to happen eventually. We all know we're going to die, but none of us acknowledge it's going to happen. In fact, I make the joke quite often. We all assume we're going to die at age 99 of an accident. We're not going to get sick. We're not going to have any, nothing's going to happen until we're ready to go. But that's not life. We've all experienced it. We've all seen it. And even if you don't have a personal story where, something that you really feel like you can relate to from a tragic standpoint, there are plenty of those stories available in the Symmetry SoundCloud. Borrow somebody else's story and make it yours, something that really touched you and affected you. But guys, this process, as we peel this onion, should be uncomfortable for you and uncomfortable for them in a good way. You have to drive this home. Because if you do a good job driving this home, at the end of the appointment, you will not have, I got to think about it. Well, let's set an appointment to do this later. Because the reality clicks in that, hey, I don't know when my date stamp is on the bottom of my foot that says I'm checking out. We don't have an expiration date printed there. So you have a responsibility to paint that reality picture with as much emotion as possible for them. People relate to stories. So you heard facts tell, stories sell, and that's important.
And Chris, I want to add a little bit of detail on that, because those are
Yeah.
great points. Those are really, really great points. And so the whole point of being uncomfortable, I think it makes it more uncomfortable if you have not yet established rapport and common ground with the client. And I think it's always an uneasy conversation, but if you make the connectivity with the client from the very first time you're on the phone with them, when you set the appointment to the Zoom meeting or the in-home appointment with the client, and you've heard me talk about this before, if you lead with your heart and they know that you genuinely have their best interest in your perspectives, and you're really there to help them, and why you're trying to help them find the right plan for their family, it is an uncomfortable conversation, but it's not as uncomfortable if they genuinely know that you care, right? So those are conversations that people don't like to talk about, but it makes it easier. I guess what I'm trying to say is this: you can't do a poor job of establishing rapport with the client and then start jumping into, hard questions and conversations like this, because you're going to take them off. They're like, wait a minute. So that's uncomfortable. But if you're talking to somebody who you've developed a connectivity with and start to ease into these kinds of conversations because you've built that rapport, although the conversation is not a pleasant one, it's an easier one to have because they know the reason why you're having it. So it sets the stage for that next level of emotional connectivity into the sales process and the solution you're able to provide to the family in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
No, absolutely. And that, you're right. You do have to establish the authority, if you will, to be able to ask those questions. That's crucial. But so yeah, no, that's a great point, John Paul. And I think for a lot of people, depending on your personality, if you've ever done a DISC profile, for some people this is more difficult than others. If you get the SI, the IS, we have a tendency to kind of want to be everybody's buddy, everybody's friend. Let's not make anybody uncomfortable. We're all friends here. Let's have a good time. But the problem with that is, you said, you got to be self-aware enough to realize that, again, this sales process requires that we deal with some very heavy topics, and we have to be willing to go there. Essentially, willing to have those conversations, willing to deal with, willing to deal with some realities, but help them recognize that. And that's the point. You gotta guide them through the process. You're the insurance Sherpa, if you will. You're going to guide them to the end of that trail, which ultimately leads to a decision. Now, one thing I will say here, and this is very important, and again, this is an area that's easy to gloss over. What happens when you have two different personality types in a home? Because if you've done any sales of any kind for any length of time, it's inevitable you're going to come across somebody that, they're like with you. They get it. Yes. But then you got the other one sitting back there, the arms folded, just kind of. Guys, if you try to move forward without that other person engaged and involved in that process, I tell you what's going to happen. You've probably had this happen to you. You're going to see it. You get to the end, you're going to have the one saying, yes, let's do this. We got to do it now. And the other one saying, you know what, we're going to think about this. We really need to talk about it. We don't like making decisions. And again, no matter how strong that other person is saying, we've got to do this right now. Yeah, I understand, but let's just let's think through this. Let's be, let's be very intentional, or whatever the word they want to use, to focus on what our decision needs to be made. We took one person in, and sometimes it's usually going to be two different personality types. One that's going to be easy to run right through that process. The other one's going to be resistant. And that's why it's important that when you get one person who's really engaged and one is not, you got to keep redirecting back to that other one who's not and get them drawn into that process. You know, and you know, a lot of times it's the guys. You know, we want to be Mr. Tough Guy, and this doesn't affect us, all that jazz like that. So, so just be aware of that. So, guys, just kind of to wrap this up, summarize again, and if you apply what we've talked about in this call today, I guarantee you will have infinitely more success, both on a business level, a personal level, and on a closing level. So your why are you in this business? If that's not, you know, we had a great call here. Let's see, I lose track of time. It was actually last week's call with Ashley Tarr talking about, you know, her start in this business and trying to become successful in the midst of just massive personal challenges, you know, marital and family challenges, and just things falling apart in her personal life. And you know, it's so critical to understand what you want to achieve in this business and keep that front and center. Because in those times where life is beating you down or the business is beating you down, you just feel like, man, I don't know, I'm spinning my wheels. I feel like I'm doing everything everybody's telling me, but I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm just spinning my wheels. You got to have that bigger vision. Why am I here? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want for my future? What do I want for my family's future? What do I want to be able to do to accomplish in this business or for other people? Have that front and center, because that's going to keep you coming back and putting in that activity when nobody really wants to, you know, has the energy or the desire to do that level of activity, especially when life sucks. And that's going to allow you to transfer that why in those conversations with the client. You know, develop that story out and then learn to help them develop their story and their why. So guys, that's what I had for you this morning. Keep it short and sweet, but to the point, and really try to deliver some hard-hitting content for you to really take that out and have some success. And again, apply this. Every time I've seen somebody go through this process and really spend the time to develop this out, we see their numbers go up. It's inevitable. So do that. You know, even if you feel like you've got a good process in place, go back, review that. There are always things that we can do to tweak that and amplify it. So, all right, guys. Great to have you all on this morning, end of May today. So get business turned in before midnight Eastern, especially if you're going for your next level promotion. You still got plenty of time, especially with web sales that we now have. This is an awesome time to be in this business where we can literally pick up the phone and have business on the books by tonight. So take advantage of that. Let's load up, get ready for June. Appreciate you all. Let's have a great week.